Hello, welcome to the latest live stream. Rob Staton joined with a very special guest, my favorite San Francisco 49ers fan, Rob Guerrera, is with us here. And Rob, it is a pleasure to speak to you. We want to preview the big game against the 49ers this weekend. But the first thing that I have to ask you about, I was having a look at what was going on in the 49ers world ahead of speaking to you today. What the heck is this strip club thing all about?
This is a weird thing. So Trey Lance, we haven't even confirmed that this is true, but someone that seems to look a lot like Trey Lance at the very least was videoed in I don't even know if it was a strip club. All I can say for sure was that it was a room with women who were dancing and there was a lot of money just kind of floating around. And some people are taking this to be like a deep scandal that a 22-year-old professional athlete went to a strip club. It's very strange.
All I could think of when I saw this, Rob, is the extent to which Pete Carroll will go to win a game. He will take Trey Lance out. He will take him to a strip club, and he will have someone film the video days before the Seahawks play them. Listen, on a serious note, what's the Niners world like right now? So week one, a loss to Chicago. Where are Niners fans, and how are they feeling about their team right now?
Well, it is a weird place to be. There's a lot of things happening at the same time, right? First, you've got the whole Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo thing. That sort of has cut the line through the fan base, and you're kind of either a Trey guy or a Jimmy guy. So they're going to deal with that, and they're going to have to deal with it all season because that's the business they chose when they chose to re-sign Jimmy Garoppolo. Now you've also got Chicago, a team that we don't think is going to be very good, who just so happens to be quarterbacked by someone the 49ers could have drafted instead of Trey Lance, and he just beat Trey Lance. So this past week has just been a huge serving of humble pie for 49ers and 49ers fans.
So is this game a must-win for the Niners?
It's weird to say in week 2, but I almost think it is. Because think about where we would be if the 49ers were to lose this game to the Seahawks. Then they would be 0-2, which if you're 0-2, it's very difficult to make the playoffs historically. You'd also be 0-2 to two teams and two quarterbacks specifically that people think are not supposed to be in your league. And the 49ers would have the Denver Broncos on Sunday Night Football in week 3, followed by the Rams on Monday Night Football in week 4. So they could potentially be staring at an 0-4 start. If you think making the playoffs at 0-2 is tough, try making it at 0-4. So, yeah, it's weird to say in week 2, but I do kind of think this is a must win.
I want to ask you about this whole Jimmy G thing because your video reaction to the day that he re-signed was a big highlight for me. It was a great video. I did think when I was watching it, are you wishing you were a Seahawks fan 15 minutes in? And then I was thinking, you're a Mariners fan, Rob. There's still time.
Yes.
There's still time for you to come across. But on a serious note, just tell us where were you at when you saw that news? What were you thinking? Because I couldn't believe it. I didn't expect it. A lot of people were sort of coming at me a little bit saying you never saw this coming because we were talking about is he going to end up in Seattle when he's cut and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then that sort of bombshell just dropped.
Well, first of all, nobody saw this coming. This scenario has almost never happened before in NFL history. And the analogy I keep using, because I feel like it's the best one, like imagine if you were on a date with someone and you've been wanting to date this person for a long time. You finally get together, you agree to go on a date. And on your way to the date, when you're driving in a car, the other person turns to you and says, just hang on, we just got to make one quick stop. And then they stop and they pick up their ex and you just say, don't worry. They're just going to sit in the back seat. It's fine. Don't worry. It's not going to affect our date at all. But, if there's a lull in the conversation or maybe things aren't weird, maybe I would just have dinner with them instead. Maybe we'll see. I think it's going to be fine though. Don't even worry. That's the scenario the 49ers have willingly walked into with Jimmy Garoppolo on the sideline over the shoulder of Trey Lance. And they can say all the good things they want. They could talk a good game. What matters is what they do. And what they have done is put Trey Lance in a very, very difficult position to where any struggles at all, even last week, his third career start in a monsoon in Chicago, And some people are already calling for him to be benched. And they put this kid in this position. And that is what is so frustrating, because I believe when you draft a quarterback, especially as high as the 49ers did, everything that you do has to be about developing that quarterback and making that quarterback achieve and fulfill their potential as quickly as possible. And the 49ers seem to be doing the complete opposite.
And there's no way that Kyle Shanahan can turn to Jimmy G, is there, in the first few weeks of the season? I mean, he will look ridiculous. He will have had to sort of say to his team, we're behind Trey Lance. You've all got to get behind this guy. This is our starter. If he then turns around after 2 games, 3 games, 4 games and says, we're going back to Jimmy G, he just can't do that. But as you quite rightly point out, Rob, the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo is there means the media are going to talk about it. I was watching a video just today on Pro Football Talk where they're talking about when's the point when Jimmy G gets brought in. And this will be a constant topic, won't it? Unless Trey Lance is playing well and the 49ers are winning. I suspect even if the 49ers are winning games, if they win at the weekend, for example, his performance will still get reviewed as, could Jimmy Garoppolo do better than this every week?
Every single week. And what I have said is, if Trey Lance plays like Jimmy Garoppolo, he's going to get replaced by Jimmy Garoppolo, which doesn't make any logical sense on any level. But yet, this is the 49ers, right? You don't bring a parachute unless you think you might have to jump out of the plane. Well, the 49ers packed a parachute the second they re-signed Jimmy Garoppolo. So it's such a frustrating thing. They're trying to have their cake and eat it too. They keep saying they want to develop Trey Lance, that they believe in him, and yet they don't want to sacrifice any games because they think they can win the Super Bowl this year. And it's like, it's kind of hard to do both at the same time.
I've just written an article about the Seahawks fans, and I kind of feel a little bit like the Seahawks fan base has become just a little bit toxic recently. And the reason is because Russell Wilson has gone, and there are some people who have decided that Russell Wilson is the devil incarnate now because he's playing for somebody else. And there are some people who think they have some sympathy with Wilson. They're not sure whether the team's going in the right direction, but you've kind of like got these battle lines drawn now between the fan base. And so a lot of the reaction, Rob, to the win against Denver was a lot of crow, like, look, Carroll was right all along. And if you didn't believe in Carroll, you aren't a true Seahawks fan. You've been put in your place, and it's one game. But you can see sort of this toxic nature. What is it like with the 49ers fans right now? Is something similar happening between people who don't want anything to do with Jimmy Garoppolo and the people who are maybe sympathetic to him starting, and maybe people who are supportive of the team's decision versus not being happy with the decision, as you clearly aren't? What is it like in that world right now?
It is very divided. And that was another frustrating thing, because I saw it all last year, because there were plenty of calls for Trey Lance to start last year. And I was leading those calls, to be honest with you. And there was a part of me that was kind of looking forward to being able to just unite again, to Jimmy being gone and off with another team and everybody pulling for Trey Lance, because essentially we would have had no other choice, right? There were no other viable quarterbacks on the roster, and it would have just been nice to everybody could be all pulling in the same direction again. And instead it was like, no, they signed up for another year of this division because that's what it's going to constantly be. What could Jimmy have done? Here's what Jimmy did against this team in the past. Trey's not doing it. Trey needs more time to develop. It's just it's the same sort of merry-go-round over and over again. And we just want to concentrate on whether the team is winning, but we can't seem to do that yet because they can't move on from this barnacle.
I think Seahawks fans are wondering, what are they going to see from Trey Lance? And some people will have already made their minds up that he's no good, but there'll be some people who are wondering, well, actually, we don't really know. We don't know what to expect. From what you have seen, Rob, and admittedly, it's not a great deal. It's a few preseason games, bit of time last year, and obviously the Chicago game in that monsoon that was going on there. But what should Seahawks fans expect from Trey Lance in this game, do you think?
What you're going to see is a lot of choppiness. You're going to see some dud throws, some throws at people's feet, some off-target throws. You're going to see him lower his eyes and look at the pass rush when he should be looking downfield. It's a lot of just raw play because he's thrown less than 400 passes in his entire football career, high school, college, and in the NFL. He literally has not played a lot of football. Sunday will be the first time in over 1,000 days that Trey Lance will make 2 consecutive starts. That's how raw this kid is. Now, on the flip side, you're also going to see someone who's very mobile and who can make some jaw-dropping throws, deep throws down the field, on a line, some very, very impressive throws that Jimmy Garoppolo could not make in his dreams. The question with him is going to be how often does he make those big plays and can he avoid the big turnover? He didn't do that last week in Chicago. He only threw one interception, but it was huge because it came in 49ers territory, set the Bears up to go up by 2 scores, and then, of course, the skies opened, and the hope for a comeback was just destroyed after that in that rainstorm.
Is Kyle Shanahan under any pressure?
No. He recently signed a new deal, so he's got a lot of years left on his contract. The owner, Jed York, absolutely loves him. They've made deep runs. They've gone to 2 NFC championship games in the past 3 years. They made the Super Bowl in 2019. He's not under any pressure. It is weird because his lifetime record is still under 500. He has still lost more games as 49ers head coach than he has won, which is strange for someone in year 6 to have the kind of job security that he does. But I think no matter what happens this year, he's safe. He may feel some pressure going into next season, but right now he's not under any pressure.
Yeah, I find the 49ers team, it's quite a difficult team to get an angle on, really, because I remember when the Seahawks beat the Niners for the second time last year, and I think they were about 6-5 at the time, or it was around that kind of range. And there was no sign then that the Niners were going to be a few plays away from the Super Bowl. And yet that's the reality. And I can remember sitting watching the playoffs thinking the Niners are going to win the Super Bowl. You know, it just had that kind of, it had that roll going. It was that momentum. And yeah, we kind of sit here today and, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's because it's a new quarterback, because it's new, there's a freshness to it. I don't really get the sense that they are a team that's going to be there at the end. But I again, what a stupid opinion to have that would be, given, you know, a year ago, you'd probably felt the same way. And yet you were so close.
I think the way it works with Kyle Shanahan, it's kind of like the way his offense works in a single game, and it's also the way his team sort of works overall. It's like a train. It takes a really long time for it to get up to speed. Once it gets up to speed, it's almost unstoppable, but it really does take a while to get moving. This team, like you mentioned, they were 3-5 last year, and they really had to go on a run to the end of the season. Then even in the final week of the regular season, had to overcome a 17-point deficit just to make the playoffs last year. So it really takes a while to get going. And whether it's, you know, just crispness in the run blocking game or getting the pass protections right, for some reason, they do not come out of the gate strong. And so I think that's going to be compounded this year because Kyle and Trey Lance are still learning. Lance is learning the pro game. They're learning each other, what calls work, what calls don't work. So I think it's really going to take extra time for the train to get up to speed. The problem, of course, is, like we've been talking about, is Trey Lance going to get that time to get up to speed, or is he going to get pulled for Jimmy Garoppolo?
How likely is it George Kittle plays, Rob?
Well, I didn't think it was very likely at all. And then out of the blue on Friday, he returns to practice. Now, he was a limited participant in practice. And afterwards, Kyle Shanahan said he's going to be sort of a game time decision. He's questionable. I don't know. It's supposed to be, there's an 80% chance of rain in the game, which, do you really want to put George Kittle with a gimpy groin out there on a rain-soaked field? I don't know. But the Niners don't usually do this kind of thing where they parade somebody out for practice and then have them not play in the game. So the fact that he was out there gives me at least a little pause. I would put it at 60-40 he doesn't play, but you never know because he was back out there. So he at least did some practice. Usually with Kyle Shanahan, you have to practice at least once if you're going to be in the game.
So I like to have a dabble, Rob, and have a little bit of a, you know, see what's going on in the betting world before the end of it. It adds a little bit of spice to a season when there's not great expectations for the Seahawks. And I have a look, and I can see that I had a look on, I think it was Tuesday, and the Niners were 10-point favorites in this game, which I found very interesting. I expected the Niners to be favorites. They are at home. They're coming off a loss, and the Seahawks coming off a big emotional victory. So I expected the Niners to be favored. But 10 points, it's gone down to 8 now. That still seems like quite a lot. What do you make of that?
It's a very strange because they started at 8.5. That's what they opened at. And then the Seahawks won on Monday Night Football. And then it went to 9.5 after Seattle won, which I thought was nuts. I can't believe it got as high as double digits. Now it's gone back down a little. I don't know what people are looking at. I don't know what Vegas is thinking with this one. The Seahawks always beat the 49ers. Always. They're 14-2 against the 49ers since 2014. 14-2. And look, I know that Russell Wilson is gone, and he was a huge part of that, of course. But weird stuff happens when the Niners play the Seahawks. Everybody remembers that fake punt last year of Travis Homer. I know I remember it. Weird stuff happens. I cannot believe that the 49ers are favored by so much. I think the 49ers will win the game, but I've been telling everybody, take the Seahawks and take the points. I cannot see any universe where the 49ers win this by more than one score.
Got about 5 more minutes with Rob, and I just want to ask you, Rob, what do you make of the Seahawks as well? The last time we spoke, you'd done that fantastic interview with Russell Wilson, and we were sort of basking in the glory of somebody actually asking Russell some difficult questions, and now he's gone. He has gone, and he was kind of in your interviews, sort of denying everything and sort of acting like there was no issue there. Now he's with Denver. What do you make of the Seahawks? You've seen them beat Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos. You've seen all of the change. They're in the NFC West. What do you think of them?
I think that this sort of Seahawks era, especially with Russell moving out now, it's over. It was a great era, the best era probably the franchise has ever seen. But it's over now, and they need to rebuild it. So I was kind of surprised that they got rid of Russell, but they kept Pete Carroll around. They kept John Schneider. They kept DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Like, to me, they didn't fully commit to the rebuild. So I don't know what the Seahawks themselves are trying to be this year. Geno Smith has looked serviceable so far with Seattle. Usually when you tear the whole thing down, you have kind of a placeholder at quarterback. You lose a bunch of games, and then you try and draft your guy in the future. Now, I know Seattle has plenty of draft picks if they want to do that, but I feel like they're kind of stuck in two worlds right now. They know that they have to move on from Russ and find somebody, but they also don't want to totally sort of tear the house down to the studs, so to speak, and build it from the ground up.
Yeah, it's a real strange one. But what do you make of the win against Denver? I mean, how did Niners fans feel about that? Because I thought they would beat Denver because of the emotional thing. I thought the Seahawks would just put everything into that game. They basically, after the second preseason game where they were terrible, Pete Carroll said, right, that's it. We're just concentrating on the first regular season game. They had about a 3-week run at this. And I didn't think it was surprising at all that they won that game. But I don't really know what to expect in this one. Because I don't understand. Are the Seahawks going to have a big letdown now? Are they going to sort of ride the wave for a few more weeks until they play, like Pat Mahomes and people like that and get blown away? Or I don't really know what to expect at all. So is there any fear from Niners fans? Are they kind of just rubbing their hands and thinking, here we go? Geno Smith can't have another half like he did in the first half against Denver. What's the thought?
If you're rubbing your hands and you're a 49er fan, you're a damn fool. Because like I said, it has not gone the 49ers away consistently for the past 8 years. I was actually happy to see Seattle win because of what you mentioned. I'm thinking that maybe there will be a little bit of an emotional letdown. I was really surprised, and I would love to get your take on this, how much they sort of played up the angle last week. Like, Russ is the enemy. They brought back all the guys that really did not get along with Russ when they were together. Doug Baldwin being on the sideline, Richard Sherman was there, KJ Wright was there. Like, those guys were there for a reason. Like, Russ was the enemy. They played into that. They played up to that. Pete Carroll's comments before and after the game, they really put a lot into this. So I'm hoping as a 49ers fan that it is an emotional letdown and that, maybe Geno plays more like he did in the second half, where I think he was 6 of 10 for 30 yards or something like that against the Broncos. His second half was nowhere near as good as his first half. I'm hoping we see more of that from the Seahawks, because I got to be honest, I just want to win. Can we beat the Seahawks once? I don't even care that Russ isn't there. Just basically 3 times in my life, can we beat the Seahawks?
About last week, it was a really weird week. Seahawks fans spent the whole week arguing with each other online about whether they should boo Russell Wilson or not. And I think by the time the game came around, people just wanted the game to be over. They didn't want to talk about it anymore. I was really surprised just how far Pete Carroll went, because he didn't do anything to he stoked the fire of, I'll go with whatever the 12s decide.
Yes.
And he kind of took it on to another level. As you mentioned, there's this kind of weird thing was going on where people like Richard Sherman and Doug Baldwin have been a little bit unhinged in their dislike of Russell Wilson for no apparent reason other than the fact they think he's a bit disingenuous, which is fine. and we've all met people who we think's a bit disingenuous in our lives. I've not necessarily gone on the campaign that Sherman and Baldwin have done over the years to sort of seem to be really anti-Russell Wilson, and they're invited back in, and even people like Marshawn who've perhaps had their doubts, and some pretty stupid things have been said about Russell Wilson over the years from that camp, and then they're all brought back. And then it did, Pete really seemed to take this personally. We've got to beat Russell Wilson. It kind of felt a little bit like, this is the Super Bowl. And the reaction to the win, did you see the Seahawks Twitter account? It was like, let's ride this, let's ride that. They really played into it. And I was sort of sat there thinking, this has kind of gone a bit too far now. And I did a video which got an absolutely honking response by Seahawks fans, by the way. Like the negativity to my video was through the roof, because how dare you, Rob, suggest that, can we concentrate on the Niners now? Can we save a little for them? Do we have to have this victory parade? Because I did a little picture, which was a banner in Lumen Field that said, beat Russell Wilson 2022, because that's kind of how it felt a little bit. And, I have to say, Rob, I am a little bit worried that we're going to see a massive letdown in this game from our point of view, from the Seahawks point of view, that it's just been all in on the beating the Broncos, and might be a good time to play Seattle.
I mean, they really embraced it. They really did. And I think the odd thing for me is part of and you tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like part of what caused the kind of split in the Seahawks locker room is that a lot of those guys on the defense especially thought that Pete Carroll was not hard enough on Russell Wilson. So now for Pete Carroll to sort of act like, we stuck it to Russ. It's like, well, you were part of the problem in the first place. So I just thought that was very, very strange, but it's very hard for a team to get up like that for 2 straight games. So I think that does play into the 49ers' hands. I think your offensive line is going to have their hands full, because Geno does move around a little, but he doesn't scramble like Justin Fields did. And Justin Fields, I think, bailed the Bears line out of a lot of what would have been sacks. So I think that Geno is going to be under a ton of pressure. What it's going to come down to for me is how well can Seattle stop the 49ers rushing game, and can they force Trey Lance to turn the ball over? Because if they can get a couple turnovers, maybe like last week in 49ers territory, they got a shot, because I don't think the Niners are going to score very many points. Even when they had Jimmy Garoppolo, the 49ers have only averaged less than 21 points a game in the Kyle Shanahan era against the Seahawks. So they're probably not going to put up a ton. So it's going to come down to turnovers by the defense, and then whether or not they can stop the ground game.
2 last questions for you, Rob. Before I do that, I've got a surprise super chat. I did not ask for these tonight, but Darth, always appreciate your support. Thank you for that. He says, hey, Rob, I love what you do. Always look forward to your live streams. Also, if Geno can get the W, I'll be drinking the Seattle Kool-Aid. I'll certainly be drinking something if the Seahawks go 2-0 this weekend.
Yeah, so will I.
So, penultimate question. What is your prediction, Rob? What do you think is going to happen?
I predict it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be obviously rainy, but I think that what's going to happen is the 49ers are going to take a lead on a field goal late in the game. It'll be like 20-17. They'll take the lead on a field goal with like 9 minutes left in the fourth, and then I'll just be white knuckling it, terrified for the rest of the game that the defense can just hang on and get us through this one. I think it's not going to be a blowout by any stretch. I don't think there's any way the 49ers cover the 8.5-point spread, but I do think San Francisco is going to do enough to get the win and maybe just quiet a little bit of the rancor for at least a week.
I don't know who's going to win this game. I've just got a feeling it's going to be a classic tight 20-17 one way or the other, but I'm not sure which way it's going to go. The final question I want to ask you is, and that I qualify this, I know as much about baseball as you probably know about cricket. So I don't know anything. So how much are you enjoying the Mariners season? Because you are a Mariners fan, as I mentioned earlier.
So this is like a dream for me. The Mariners have the longest playoff drought in North American professional sports. Okay. The last time they made the playoffs was 2001. I was 16 years old. I'm now 37, married, and have 2 kids, and I have seen exactly 0 playoff games in that time. So I won't believe it until it's officially official, but it has been an incredible ride this year. At one point, they were 10 games below 500. Now they're 18 games over 500. It's been a crazy roller coaster, but it has been something I literally have not seen since I was 16 years old. So how can I not enjoy it?
Yeah, you sound very similar. So, as a big England soccer fan, and I am 38, and I have 2 kids, and we have never won anything in it's since 1966. So the drought goes on for us. Maybe the World Cup this year will change that.
But you have a championship. You just said since 1966, right?
That's true.
I
wasn't there, but apparently it was really good.
The Mariners are the only team in Major League Baseball to never even appear in a World Series. Forget win one.
They've never been to the World Series.
Never.
Wow. Great. Well, hopefully that is coming. Do you think it's going to happen soon? Because from Twitter, everyone's very excited in Seattle, I can tell.
I can't predict that. I mean, it's been 16 years between playoff games. So the idea of them even making a World Series is beyond my comprehension.
Okay. Well, I wish you the very best of luck with the Mariners, Rob.
Thank you.
You by all means have great luck with the Niners in 15 games this year.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I'll take it.
Rob, it's a pleasure. And look, if people want to check your videos out, I have a love for listening to your videos and your opinions on the Niners. And I would recommend that Seahawks fans, if you want to get the real truth on what is going on with that team as a division rival, that you check out Rob's stuff. But where can they get it, Rob?
Oh, thank you. I'm available pretty much everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, @StatsOnFire. I like to tell people I'm here for the arguments.
Great stuff. Rob, thank you for your time and thank you for watching, everybody. We might be more of these over the weekend talking about college football and, of course, the big game against the San Francisco 49ers. But for now, till then, see you soon. Goodbye.